Hello, Mr. Hausman. And Mr. Ford. What a great surprise. What can I do for you today?
Bruce Ford again? What are you doing here?
Well, you flipped me off last week, so I decided to show up.
Hey, well, thanks. I'm sure this is going to be a great show.
Yeah, killer.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Well, hello, and welcome to the No Vacancy podcast with me, Glenn Hausman. I am excited to have you guys here. Why? Because it's going to be a very special episode this week. I don't mean to get all blossom on everybody here, but I think it's going to be one that you're going to need to pull out those handkerchiefs and just watch and listen and learn. Why is it going to be so special? Well, first of all, I have Mr. Bruce Ford here, SVP of Development with Lodging Econometrics. How are you, sir?
Mr. Hausman, happy days are here again.
Hey, happy days are here again, and we're coming at you from AHOACon 2018, which, as you're listening to the show, is just wrapping up. That is, if you're listening to the podcast feed. If you're watching us live on Facebook, hey, it's happening right now.
We're
Hope to see you guys.
We're so soch.
We are. We are so. I would like to say that this show is brought to you in part by Duetto, the revenue strategy technology platform that thousands of hotels are using to make more money. Bruce, I know you like making more money.
I do, and revenue management software tools out there in the industry is some great stuff these days. We've really figured out how to computerize what used to be a very manual system of cards and calling around to the other hotels and all those types of things. So take advantage.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, if you're thinking about your bottom line there, which I know as a smart hotelier you're doing every single day, and you're not using some sort of revenue strategy such as the one offered by the good folks at Duetto, I think you're leaving money on the table. These guys, they really help you get results with revenue, and have a website to check it all out, getrevenueresults.com. GetRevenueResults.com is where you need to go, and you're going to hear an interview that I did with their CEO, Patrick Bosworth, all about the history of revenue management, how it became revenue strategy, and all of that great stuff in the future that's coming along. So, Bruce, we're here. We're at the AHOA conference. The reason why I said it's a very special episode is because I want to talk about an issue that's very serious. It's very serious to me, and that is, why is it in airports and hotels I can't get the automated sinks to actually work ever, and I have to go to 4 or 5 sinks, and it makes me sad, Bruce Ford.
They actually have to put one guy on replacing all the batteries there. We could find a guy to bring on that could talk to you about that, Glenn. At the end of the day, though, you might be invisible, and that's why it's not working for you.
That's so sad. Now I even have sinks telling me my existence doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, life's a bitch.
Yeah. It really is. One thing, not the big giant B word, is this amazing conference, AHOACon 2018 at the Gaylord National. I love the energy here. I love the fun that people seem to be having. I love the business productivity that's taking place. And, man, what an awesome experience it is here.
Well, it is the largest owners' conference in the world for hotels. Without question.
And,
not comparable to anything else.
It is not comparable to anything else at all. I mean, it's really unbelievable. In fact, it is indeed the largest hospitality trade show and convention in the world. And we're having so much fun here at capturing stories in our big glass booth from all the AHOA members. And if you're listening to this live, you want to come by between 1 and 3 today to share your story, that'd be great. If you're listening to this as a podcast, hey, it already happened. Sorry. I feel badly that you missed this opportunity. And thanks to Red Roof for being such a great sponsor today.
The other thing that's really compelling is that this is very street corner in terms of all the things that you talk about here at the AHOA conference, mostly because these are owners of 2, 4, 7 hotels, many cases, and they are the backbone of what the industry is. And the issues that they deal with are very different from things that people deal with who have 20, 30, 80 hotels. In addition to that, they are multi-generational. In many cases, their parents started the company, and now they're coming into the business, the next generation. So I applaud that, obviously being in a family business on my own as a second generation into the business. I think it's a great way to learn the industry. And I always say to people, I grew up in the hotel business because part of our vacations as a young man was to go to that city that we were going to. We'd all go see the coolest hotels in town. I specifically remember a vacation to California when I was 10, where we went to see the Ritz-Carlton in downtown San Francisco, and I said, this is the coolest place ever. Yeah. And it was a very unique hotel, and I'd never seen anything like that before. So, the aspects that you enjoy here at the AHOA conference don't replicate in a lot of other places. So I really find it great. I'm having very successful meetings here, and being at National Harbor in D.C. at the Gaylord Hotel, I've always enjoyed the how they package up the Gaylord. And contrary to popular belief here at D.C., it's actually don't have to walk quite a half a mile. It's only 1/3 of a mile from my room to the conference space.
Well, I'm sorry that you chose you chose to walk 1/3 of a mile. Now, I'm staying at the hotel across the street, which by feet is actually, I think, closer to this booth here that we're broadcasting from right now than your hotel is in this building.
Yeah, nice try, Glenn. Okay, I know you want to pump it up, you're a Hampton man, okay, but at the end of the day, that's completely false.
It is not completely false. I challenge you, Bruce Ford, to a walk-off. Mm-hmm. I've got my stepper in my pocket. We will do steps from one to the other and see which is closer.
You're going to lose, Glenn.
And, of course, if I lose, you will not see the results here on the No Vacancy podcast because, quite frankly, my ego can't handle when you're correct about stuff.
Yeah, well, that happened last night, and we what are you going to do?
You were right about something last night?
I was. Yes. I was right about the Uber departure area.
Oh, yes.
I'd be right about something.
All right. Yes, as a matter of fact, we are coming at you from the National Harbor Complex, and we had a chance to visit the MGM National Harbor last night. Really, I love the design of that particular hotel. I think it's really well done as far as a locals type casino goes. By locals I mean outside some of the major tentpole Vegas like casino cities.
Sure. So it's obviously with casino gaming in more states than ever, you're going to see more of those Las Vegas style casinos coming to your local area. MGM has a few of them in the pipeline in the United States. One of the next ones that's going to open is in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Yes, it is.
And I expect somewhat of a replication, kind of what they've done down here at National Harbor, because the sizing of the units are very similar.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be because this particular design, I checked it out once before. I did a quick 20-minute walkthrough last spring shortly after it opened. It's just been such a success, and it looks so great, and it's something so different than most of the casinos that I go to around the country, which I like to check out just to see what's going on with design. And I'm a little bit of a sucker for the way casinos are set up and how that whole business works. But most of those places that I go to just seem a little sad and depressing, and I just feel not good when I'm in them. But last night I felt pretty decent.
Yeah, anything that was designed from a casino perspective over 20 years ago was designed differently, okay? And a lot of that has to do with the smoking inside,
which there was none of, interestingly enough.
Correct. And so you can build a different room and a different feel to the room if you're not having to, quote, deal with all of the cigarette smoke. So it's a different design otherwise. So a lot of that is changing. I went to the Turning Stone Casino out in New York.
That's in upstate New York?
Yeah, last year. And they have both the old design and the new design as they bring the casino theory further forward, more modern. And they were moving in that direction. Mm-hmm. As you know, Sheldon Adelson, the owner of Sands Corporation, they've recently sold their developed Bethlehem, Pennsylvania location to another regional casino player. So that was one that didn't necessarily make, if you will, or because they didn't sell it for a significant profit. It just they decided to exit that and go to more, I think, mainstream global markets, as they're still looking in Spain, if I understand correctly, right?
Yeah, I mean, they put a lot of effort over the years into that Spain property, but I think it's Japan is really what they're looking at now, predominantly. Yeah. But yeah, Spain is absolutely there too. Now, I had a chance to go check out the Sands Bethlehem Casino in Pennsylvania. I'm forgetting the name of the town that it's in.
You're right, it's in Bethlehem, I think.
It's in Bethlehem. All right, well, that's why it's called the Bethlehem Casino. Mm-hmm. Well, duh. Mm-hmm. Sorry, it's been a long.
Hey, Glenn, I was right about something else right there. Keep a note.
We're gonna have to delete this show. I think at this point
That would be number 2.
Yeah, so I took a tour of that casino, and I was excited by the whole concept of it for a lot of years because they took an old steel factory and they incorporated elements of that, including the big smokestacks, into it. I'm a huge fan of repurposing old buildings into something new and exciting. I think it bridges the old world and the new world in a fun and interesting way. But that casino almost felt like it was halfway achieving what the National Harbor Casino achieved. It didn't feel regular local casino, but it didn't have that Las Vegas-y kind of appeal to it either.
Well, some of that issue is if you look at how contiguous the National Harbor Casino, the MGM property, is to this casino. You have 2 properties, the Gaylord being 2,000, and the MGM, I think, is a 700-unit property, something like that. But putting those together in terms of conference space size, in terms of guest room size, in terms of being able to bring a convention, having another large hotel close by to the Gaylord, I'm sure, is a selling point.
Yes.
Not that there aren't other branded hotels here, because there are, okay? But I've come across several dozen people that are staying out at the MGM. And, of course, it offers different things in terms of entertainment for your clients. There was a few events there last night from some of the sponsors of the event here. So it just gives you more places to go. In Bethlehem, they don't have that. There's no Gaylord down the street. There's no other collection of large hotels or other conference space or convention space. And I think that's a big key to casino gaming success and really making that success happen in local markets or non-traditional
I think that's
casino
a
markets.
really terrific point, because when you bring in that meetings business, it's a different type of person that's hanging out in the casino. It's the less committed to gambling type of person and more, hey, I want to have a fun night out, get some good food, have some great drinks, maybe have a little bit of fun on the casino floor.
Sure, and casino is trying to capture all different kinds of demand, from people who are coming to concerts, people who just want a meal, people who want to go gamble, all different types of things. And having a casino nearby, a significant amount of convention space, it has seemed to work a little better.
Yeah,
shall we say.
We're also here at the Gaylord National, one of the biggest non-gaming hotels in the country, and there's a new one from the Gaylord family that's going to be opening, I think, possibly by the end of this year outside Denver. I think near the airport. I'm going to be at the Gaylord Texan in a couple of weeks. I find these complexes to be really interesting. I kind of have like a love-hate affair with them, right? Sometimes I think they're really cool because of the size and scope of them. Sometimes I don't like them because of the size and scope of them. It kind of depends on the moment. But if you're doing an event like this, a giant-size event, you can't beat that convenience factor.
You can't, and in the hotel business, we have a thing about having hotel conferences in hotels.
Right.
See, you look at the size of the AHOA conference, there are very few places you can bring that. Okay, I mean,
there's thousands and thousands of people here.
Yeah, you're at 6,000 to 7,000 attendees. You need a 500 booth exhibit hall.
Right.
You need 60 conference rooms. You have needs that are fulfilled only by a very few locations. And
oddly enough, you fulfill all my needs, Bruce Ford.
Well, Glenn, I'm here for something. But even at the LA Live complex for
downtown
Alice,
Los Angeles,
we probably wouldn't fit in there.
No, this is way too big of an event, and it really limits you if you don't want to be in Las Vegas, for example, and you don't want to be in Orlando. Even though there's a Gaylord in Orlando, then there's very few options.
Yeah, I mean, in LA Live, obviously having about 3,000 rooms there in the close proximity could provide the rooms, but there's not enough meeting space.
Right.
I mean, you look at the size of what we're dealing with here, unless you put it in the convention center, okay, which they're not typically doing often.
Is there room for any more of these type properties, do you believe, in the country? And if so, any particular cities that you think it would work?
Well, let's review. So we have Nashville, we have Grapevine, Texas, we have Orlando,
And soon Denver.
Suburban Denver.
And here.
And they've talked about San Diego.
Right, and I recall that got scuttled because of unions and labor.
Yeah, they didn't execute on that. It really doesn't make sense, I don't think, in a city like Los Angeles. I don't think it makes sense in Las Vegas. Perhaps Phoenix, Scottsdale, maybe. That could be interesting. Perhaps, Chicago has plenty of meeting space. I'm not sure it works as well there. But you got to think about airport lift. You got to think about how big is the convention center and how contiguous is it to the major demand for conference space. You'd have to think that not a lot more places to put it.
Right.
Really.
And, the whole idea behind the Gaylord concept is you get a group in, and then they do the tour around the country over the next 4 or 5 years, each one for their annual event, which I think...
don't know, maybe New Orleans? I don't know.
I was just thinking New Orleans, too, but I'm not sure if that's because I love the city or I think it'd be a good location for it,
Toronto, maybe, too.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah. But I know that they've looked at Atlanta, and there's just so much supply in Atlanta, and there's a lot of small hotels, and it's a traffic problem.
All right, what about Seattle?
I don't know. It's Seattle, and the airlift is funky. It's way up there in the corner of the country. It's you got to think more middle America, I think,
right,
in terms of not getting too cornered off.
That's why I think Dallas works so great, because I know a lot of people that live in Dallas, and the reason why they live there is because they travel so much that they're always 2.5, 3 hours away from wherever. If I want to fly to Seattle, it's a 6-hour plus flight.
And they build everything bigger in Texas, and the scale of that one in terms of the acreage is one of the biggest.
All right, how about Minneapolis?
Well, they just redid a lot of the convention center in Minneapolis, and they've built a new dome, obviously, for the well, not a dome, but an indoor stadium for the football team. So they gather a lot of opportunity, but I don't know.
All right, and my last.
What did Eric say? Didn't you have Mr. Jacobs on yesterday?
I did have Eric Jacobs.
Did you quiz him this hard?
I did.
I don't work there.
And
right?
The Eric Jacobs interview is actually going to appear on the No Vacancy podcast after this particular show is released. But he's in charge of all the development for the select service aspect of the company we had with Marriott, and we had such a great, interesting conversation there. But last city though I want to mention to you where possible Gaylords talk in the middle of the country. Why not just put one in Kansas City?
Not enough airport lift, I think, would still be the answer for that one.
Right, exactly.
That's why Nashville's made so much sense. I mean, Nashville teeters on enough airport lift, and still in some places on the East Coast it's challenging to get there direct.
Yeah.
But, of course, that was the original Opryland way back in the day.
Yeah, it sure was. And we were at this event, the AHO event. It was at Opryland 2 years ago, I believe. All right, so Bruce, moving on to another topic. What are some of the big issues that you are seeing people talk about here at this week's AHOA convention at the Gaylord National?
Well, I think planning CapEx is one of the things that a lot of people are talking about. People are seeing that they're making good profit today. Revenues are still up. They're concerned about what the next 6, 12, 18 months might hold. I think we all have a certain measure of concern, which has been, relayed from the microphone, from the stage, that, the only thing that's derailed the economy of the hotel business in the past couple of cycles has been an external economic event.
Right. Yeah.
And we don't know when that's coming. No one can predict that.
I guess if you knew when it was coming and predict it, you could probably stop it.
Right.
We need, what we need? We need someone like Scott Bakula to go back in time and save us from the next Black Swan event.
I could guess that people are concerned with the third and the fourth quarter this year. Obviously, we have midterm elections this year. A number of seats in Congress are going to be up. We have had, really in my lifetime, what seems to be a pretty unprecedented run of congressional retirements.
Right.
Both in the Senate and in the House. So that's going to have an impact for sure. And, of course, the stock market is probably 12% off its peak, which was late last year, which I think is a peak nobody expected we'd get to. So some of the signals say softening. Some of the signals say uncertainty. Some of the signals say play it down the middle of the road, if you will. But if you're an individual hotelier now, you should be planning out your CapEx for the near term. You should be thinking renovation. You should be thinking that new supply is going to impact the operating performance of your hotel, and
Right.
you better be renovated and prepared.
Yeah, I feel like you should always be thinking about those sort of things. But I got to tell you, the issue that concerns me most, and people can't stop talking about it here on the show floor, is that it's been announced that this summer's Sharknado 6 is going to be the last one of the series, Bruce.
Gee, Glenn, I'm in trouble. I don't even know what the heck that is.
You don't know what Sharknado is?
No.
Oh my God! It's a series of movies with Ian Ziering and Tara Reid where they fight sharks that are flying around and eating people because they get stuck in tornadoes. Hence the name Sharknado.
Sounds so far out of my bailiwick. It's just, I can't even. I mean, I barely take enough time to watch The Big Bang Theory, for gosh sakes. I mean,
Well, I watch Sharknado because my kids make me watch it with them, and we have a really good time making fun of it because the movies are so bad.
I still watch the WWE, Glenn. So I mean, it's because my grandkids do.
I still think of it as the WWF.
So I mean, it's. And, of course, Small Business Administration Secretary Linda McMahon was here to talk to everybody this morning.
And did you get to sit in on that? Because I've been here
for a
in
few
the
minutes.
booth. And what did you learn from that?
Well, I think that, she really feels like the hotel business is obviously a big part of SBA. And as we know, many owners here at AHOA utilize that financing vehicle, as many of them are small family businesses. And she got a lot of cheers from the audience. So I think that a lot of small business owners think that the tax breaks that the government has put through are going to be very good for them.
Well, here's the thing. I've been speaking to a lot of owners and AHOA community members. They're not sure. At least the guys I spoke with, right? I've been having a lot of one-on-one conversations, even here on the mic, and you guys can go check out those interviews on NoVacancyNews.com or hopefully on the AHOA page if you go check that out. They're like, it's too early to tell. They're just not that sure. A couple of the guys even said that they don't think it's going to do anything for them, which is very counter to the narrative that I've been hearing and perceiving as true.
Gee. The president has a narrative that what he says may not be actually true? Wait a minute. Are you sure?
Listen, I'm just sure of the one thing I'm sure of is that I've been speaking to these owners, and that's their opinion on the issue. Because they said until the actual rules come out in print, then they really just don't know. Yeah. But a lot less people are excited than I thought would be.
And owners are under attack for a lot of reasons. Okay, there's a lot of cities that are broke. There's a lot of states that are broke. Okay, and hotel taxes continue to rise, okay? And those owners are under attack, left, right, up, down.
Absolutely.
And they can't raise the prices fast enough to keep up with the other increasing costs all over the place.
Yeah.
Whether that's energy or employment or taxes or all different types of things. And so they're constantly under attack. So I'm thinking that, yeah, okay, maybe the new tax cuts is going to have a 3% impact, but not a 30% impact.
Right.
So no one's, going to jump out the window and say that it's amazing. Okay, it's just a peg on the board, if you will.
Right.
But I think that owners have to. Andy Alexander, president of Red Roof, also spoke this morning, and he had some commentary about the doubling. Okay, and the doubling, I don't know whether you've seen this speech before, but the doubling of how fast technology is moving. Okay, and all of the great innovators created new technology. Okay, and all of the great innovators, whether that's Steve Jobs or Bezos or even going back hundreds of years in our society. Okay?
Right.
And the doubling effect of how fast things are going to move. What used to take 150 years to double over now takes 2 years. And a quadrillion, okay, this was his number. Our kids will face a quadrillion doubling of tech speed in terms of new opportunities. So if you're an owner, you need to be thinking about alternative energy. You need to be thinking about automation. You need to be thinking about how can I take the room down from an energy perspective when it's not occupied? How can I buy sustainable products? How can I be a participator And I think that innovating there is going to be a key going forward.
Makes sense, and it also plays in line with the cultural shift that younger people in particular only want to spend money with companies that share what they believe to be similar ethics.
Yep. And so, when you start thinking about things that cost a lot of money in the guest room, I never knew this, okay, but it's one of the big tech things that's going to come down the street is the cost to operate a television. Okay, Those new 1080p or 4K TVs, they look awesome. They suck a lot of energy.
I was about to say, they're all what they call vampires. Even when they're off, they suck a lot of energy.
Yeah, and how can you control that in a hotel?
Well, there's got to be some way to control that in a hotel. I mean, I've got a kill switch at my house for that. If we're going out of town, for example, for the weekend, you might as well just turn it off. And I don't need the router on. I don't need the TV working. I definitely don't need the cable box sucking energy either.
So I'm thinking that, again, innovating inside of a hotel, how can you do that? How can you be effective with that? The days of the maids controlling the thermostat, is that the best way to go going forward? Should that be controlled from the desk? Knowing that these 20 rooms are not going to be occupied for 5 or 6 days, what are you going to do with that to make it the most efficient way to operate the hotel? There's all kinds of things to look at.
I heard of one in particular, one interesting product was instead of having an engineer come to the hotel to check your boiler, for example, right, they could hook it up to a system and you could have one engineer that checks like 300 different hotels from a remote location and make adjustments on the fly.
Sure.
That's interesting to me because it saves energy, the cost of energy, and all of those people that you need to hire as well.
Yeah, and owners should be taking those meetings. Anybody who says I can save you money, even if you have to spend to save, sometimes that's responsible.
Right.
Okay. And the brands are thinking about that too. If you take the Intercontinental's new Avid brand, right? Mm-hmm. So the comparison that one of our friends presented at the California Lodging Investment Conference a couple of weeks ago, presented that the same size from a number of rooms perspective, Holiday Inn Express, and the same size Avid,
right,
you need 1/3 less land for the Avid.
Yeah, that's because
the rooms are more efficient.
Are more efficient.
The building's more efficient.
And by efficient, we mean smaller.
Yeah. But efficiency comes in smaller packages, Glenn, because if you don't have that extra 20 square feet, guess what? You don't have to heat it. You don't have to cool it.
In this particular conversation, I'm not making an opinion or a comment on the size of the specific rooms. I'm just, clarifying.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I've definitely had my opinion on these in the future. Just not now,
Yeah.
I'm tired of having opinions, Bruce.
Yeah, well, Glenn, some people just like to take your opinions, roll them up real tight, and throw them at you. That's the way they function.
What are you going to do?
Make the rest of us miserable.
If I'm going to choose to be a broadcaster and an outspoken speaker, then, sometimes you're going to ruffle a few little feathers, which is always difficult to comprehend for me. I don't like people disagreeing with me or arguing with me, except you. I seem to really enjoy that. But
we'll knock it back and forth.
It is part of the territory.
So some of the other things that we talk a lot about here, Glenn, is consolidation.
Yes.
Okay, and so there was an announcement yesterday, or a disclosure, I would more say, that Pebblebrook, a hotel REIT, has made an offer to purchase LaSalle Hotel Properties, which is also a hotel REIT.
Which is pretty significant.
Sure. There's a lot of connectivity between the two companies. The chairman, chief executive officer, John Ports at Pebblebrook, was the guy who founded LaSalle Hotel Properties 20-plus years ago when it went public. And so that's some of the connectivity. But they also have kind of common vision. LaSalle has, a number of urban center locations, kind of boutique-type properties that I think from a real estate perspective are attractive to Pebblebrook. And Pebblebrook was first to the game to divest out of New York. They sold most of their hotels in New York 2 years ago.
No, I had no idea, and I gotta hand it to them. Good move. Since they sold those hotels, New York has really become soft. Everyone I talk to in the city has a real hard time pushing rates on it. Man, they're just trying to tread water and not fall behind, which is not happening often.
Yeah. And when you talk about New York and you talk about costs going up, that's one of the places where costs are really going up. So if you can't raise rates, you fall behind. You make less.
Yeah, how many hotels did you say is in the New York City general pipeline? It's still in like the 90s, isn't it?
The New York City market still has 180 projects.
Holy cow!
Yeah, the stat that I presented yesterday was talking more about not Manhattan, but about the JFK tract and the LaGuardia tract out at the airports. I had a special slide for that. So at LaGuardia, about 2,300 rooms will open between 18 and 19. And at JFK, there was just one hotel that would open between 18 and 19.
But in 2020, hotel?
But in 2020, there's 6,000 rooms coming between those two airports.
Holy cow!
Yeah,
Now
they haven't really built a lot of new hotels out there in quite a while.
Oh goodness! I think the last time they built some new hotels at JFK, and I'm just using my fuzzy memory, it's got to be 10 years.
Yeah.
At this point.
So the reconfiguration of everything that they're doing there is leading to this development. Okay,
Right.
and
Are you speaking to LaGuardia? For example?
both. Right? I mean, in both cases, LaGuardia obviously more substantial renovation now. Is a new terminal at LaGuardia.
They're
too,
rebuilding
right?
the whole airport essentially.
Yeah, and they've been doing it for a while, but JFK, is that all done now?
The terminals?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, right now they're building the TWA hotel right in front of the JetBlue terminal.
Yeah.
I think JetBlue wants to expand their terminal, but I haven't seen anything like that as of yet. The Delta terminals, they've been done for quite some time.
Okay.
I wish they'd get rid of the Terminal 2 for Delta now, that they got rid of Terminal 3 and moved everything over to Terminal 4, because I always feel like when I'm at Terminal 2 compared to Terminal 4 that I'm the middle child, unloved.
Is that when you're going to Boise?
yeah, pretty much. No, LaGuardia, though, it's so limited with the amount of traffic that they can have coming in and out. I wonder what's going to happen with all of that hotel development. Do we really need 2,300 plus rooms in that particular market? Because you got these runways that cross, and you can only do, I believe, it's limited to 60 takeoffs and landings an hour.
Yeah. So the not every hotel is going to be looking over the runways. Okay,
Right.
That's not what we're talking about. But additionally to that, I think what LaGuardia is going to do with the reconfiguration of the traffic is they're going to keep much of the vehicular traffic that is not buses away from the front doors.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's a common thing that they do when they're highly congested. So the congestion gets away from the front door of the building.
Right.
And that's not only a security issue in many cases, but it's also a traffic flow issue too.
Well, there's horrific traffic flow with the current iteration of
Yeah.
LaGuardia. I mean, you've got to go around and back and around again in order to get to the building right next door. I mean, this is no joke. You literally have to go all the way across the airport and come back in order to get to.
So you're feeling
places.
the pain that I did in Boston for 10 solid years.
Oh my God, yeah. But it's all right. I don't really fly out of LaGuardia all that much, and quite frankly, it's still pretty convenient for me because where I park my car, it's just across the street, and the shuttle van comes really quick to pick me up to take me there, which is much better than when I'm at JFK because it's so giant. It could take 20 to 30 minutes for that little shuttle van to get me.
So the airport development that we talked about there with LaGuardia and JFK is going down the line of exactly what's happening in the industry. We're seeing more new construction at airports because the fly-in for the day for a meeting, go to the airport hotel, or fly in for 2 days or a day and a half is becoming pretty common because less and less people, particularly in sales and marketing, report to headquarters to go to work every day. Mm-hmm. So as a result of that, you have to get together, you have to have regional meetings, and airport hotels are getting a lot of that business.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. I was just at an airport recently where I saw a new hotel going up. I've been traveling so much I can't remember what city it was in, but it really struck me as, wow, I'm going to a lot of airports now and seeing a lot of hotels being built on site.
Yep. There's a ton of them, and they're reconfiguring a lot of car rental places too. So you're seeing that in terms of the consolidation of the car rental, putting it in a couple of garages rather than a lot of acreage around the airport, so they can again control traffic.
I like that. It's much more convenient when you can just pick up the car in the airport and not have to get on that bus.
But would you want to own a car rental business right now? Revenue's in decline.
No, I
decline.
wouldn't. Yeah, I mean.
that more and more people are just take Uber.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, or Lyft.
Yeah. All right. So we've been on the mic for a really long time already. Bruce, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah. Have a happy Passover, Glenn.
Hey, thanks so much. I will be missing, unfortunately, the first Passover Seder with my family because I'll be with my Indian American community here enjoying the big gala. But I do get to go home on Saturday morning, drive all the way back to New York, and have 25 people coming over for a Seder at my house. So I'm wondering how that's going to work out.
Well, I hope Mrs. Hausman is fully prepared.
And
she will be.
Or Miss Stein, depending on the day of the week.
Oh, okay.
I'm always confused. I always have to, I always have to ask her. I'm like, which name did you use on this particular thing or that particular thing? She really vacillates back and forth. I think we've settled on when it deals directly with the kids, she's Mrs. Hausman. The rest of the time, she's Miss Stein.
Okay.
All right. So just so we all know what the rules are over there.
So we're going to be at Lodging Econometrics closing down another quarter coming up, and I'm expecting some pipeline growth still. Probably not a lot of new brands. I think obviously the Red Collection from Red Roof was one of the last ones that was announced. A soft brand in the upper mid-scale space. Again, most of the brands that are being announced have been going down the market, so more upper mid-scale and economy stuff. I'd expect that to continue, and also more consolidation.
Yeah, I expect, my prediction, I expect Hilton says, I believe that they're going to be announcing another brand or 2 or 20 any month now, and Best Western will be rolling out a new brand.
So maybe NYU. For NYU. Oh, yes, NYU.
Yes, right. At least that's what I believe to be the case. They're definitely doing a new brand. I just don't know whether or not it's going to be associated. It's going to be announced completely in time for the NYU show. And I urge everybody to check out my interview with the CEO of Best Western Hotels and Resorts with Mr. David Kong. Got to figure out when I'm going to run that one. Maybe even after this segment. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet as we were recording this.
Yes. Well, in the new economy, Glenn, you prepare late. That's how you do it.
I really appreciate that, Bruce. It's the nicest thing that you've ever said about me, that I actually prepare for something.
Well, I tried to be nice.
Yeah.
It came veiled in sarcasm.
Bruce, how about your shameless plug, buddy?
All right. Lodging Econometrics on LinkedIn. Lodging Econometric. Drop the S on Twitter. Please feel free to follow us. We release all kinds of facts and figures about the hotel development industry, and we're always available to be of assistance. And BFINNH on Twitter for me. And everybody have a great holiday weekend.
Great. Yeah. Happy Easter to you and your family, Bruce.
Thank you very much.
And I want to thank all of you for listening. Now, stay tuned, because after this message, we have got an amazing interview. I have no idea which one it'll be. You'll see it in the show notes. I'm clueless right now, but it was amazing because I have been getting such terrific interviews between last week at Hunter and this week at AHOA. I've got a lot of CEOs lined up already. I've got, all sorts of great personalities all ready to go, all in the can, all recorded, and you guys are going to hear it. But before we go to break, one word of advice: whatever you do, take care of your shoes. We'll be right back after this message.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Glenn Hausman, and you know me from the No Vacancy podcast, but I have got an all-new show coming, and I'm partnering up with the #1 guy in hospitality, Mr. Anthony Melchiori.
Now, it's called the yin and yang of hospitality.
That's right.
So I need to know going forward, because I'm a control freak, am I yin or yang?
I'm definitely the one that starts with Y, and you could be whichever one you want to be.
I'll be the one that starts with Y.
All right, so you're going to have more great banter just like this every single episode on the yin and yang of hospitality, found wherever your favorite podcasts are available. Any final thoughts?
Yes, I'm yang.
All right, I'm Ying. Thanks for listening.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast with me, your host, Glenn Hausman. I'm excited to be here because, of course, I have one of my favorite CEOs on the entire planet. Maybe the universe. I'm not so sure about those CEOs on Venus right now, but it's
Glenn, do you say that to everyone?
No, just some of my favorites. I do like a lot of folks, but okay. to be fair, you talk to me, so that already makes you one of my favorites. The voice you were hearing, of course, is David Kong, President and CEO of Best Western. How are you today?
Great, Glenn. Glad to be here.
I am so happy to have you here today. So we're recording this at the podcast booth at the AHOA conference here in the Gaylord National. What a fun event I think this is going to be. What do you hope to be getting out of it this week?
This is going to be incredible. It's going to be amazing. I get to catch up with a lot of my friends here.
Yeah.
And see what we can do for them.
Yeah, of course.
Great.
So I think the question is, what can you do? But I mean, I think a lot. You have a lot of exciting brands. The last time we spoke on the No Vacancy podcast was, I want to say, November of 2016. It's been a year and a half. You had just done the Sure Stay announcement.
Right. Time flies.
Yeah, I know. So tell me a little bit about what's going on with, Sure Stay. When I speak to your development guys, they seem like they're doing really well. They're pretty happy guys.
It's been incredible. I think at the end of this year, we would have about 100 Sure Stay hotels open.
Wow.
And we have a very healthy pipeline that we're working very hard on. And you know what's amazing about Sure Stay is initially we thought it's just going to be a slow ramp up like a lot of the other brands, but we've just been amazed at the interest with Sure Stay, and particularly heartening to see that there are a lot of developers who just bought new assets and they're spending money to renovate and they want to reposition those assets, and they are interested in branding them Sure Stay. So that's an added bonus.
It's definitely an added bonus. So tell us a little bit about the proposition of Sure Stay. What is it that's attracting so many developers with 100 properties open already?
Yeah, we set out to create leadership in the economy segment because as you think about the brands in the economy segment today, there aren't really clear leaders, someone who stands for quality, someone who stands for customer care, and those are the cornerstones of Sure Stay. We have satisfaction guarantee, we have TripAdvisor rating requirements, we also have an announced inspection. All these things are aimed to provide our guests a superior experience. They might pay the economy segment price, but they have the right to expect a clean, comfortable room with good service. And that's what we set out to do with Sure Stay. We want to take a leadership role in that segment.
Well, I think it's taking off, and most notably to me, as I'm driving around on the highways, I see exit here, and I'm seeing more and more Sure Stay signs wherever I go.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. So, what about the mothership brands? What's going on with Best Western Plus, Best Western Premier, and I think I stayed at the coolest ever Best Western Premier hotel when I got to stay in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia.
Oh, no kidding.
Which was an unbelievable experience to me, that you would have a premier hotel in such a wild way out type of a place.
No kidding. I've been to that hotel. That hotel is the best location ever. It's right in the middle of the square next to all the government buildings. And that hotel is like a Hyatt in many ways. It's a full-service, beautiful hotel. We're really proud of it.
And super fast internet service, and amazing bed, and it's really comfortable. And of course, as Mr. Kong was saying, when you walk out of the hotel, you just turn right, and boom, you're in the major square of the city with giant Genghis Khan statues everywhere.
The high-speed internet access there is unbelievable. They have an IP address for every single guest room. Can you believe that?
I wish we had more of that here in this podcast booth right now, so we could get a better internet connectivity. So, Best Western Premier seems to be taking off here in key locations around the world. How is that working out for the brand?
Brand is growing. We have a very healthy pipeline. We have 500 some hotels in a pipeline with 300 something in the United States and Canada. We launched a bunch of new brands in the last few years, and it's great to see that about 40% of the new applications are for one of these new brands, which demonstrates that these new brands are gaining traction and are broadening our Best Western appeal to developers as well as to guests that stay at our hotels.
Yeah, and that's I think you're downplaying it. A bunch of new brands in the last couple of years. I think one a year for the last 5 years at this point. It's almost an annual tradition. It's like, what's the big announcement going to be when you go to the annual Best Western conference held every fall? So, all right. So, Glow and Vibe, I'm starting to see them pop up in places now. I haven't had yet to stage. So, what kind of feedback are you getting from the ownership and customers that are starting to come through?
Well, actually, the first Vibe is going to open in a few months, and the first Glow, likewise, in a few months. These brands are really gaining a lot of traction. We have a very good pipeline. We have a I think about 40 Vibes approved and maybe 50 Glows approved. And many of them are under construction today. So I feel really good about it, particularly Glow, which aimed at secondary markets. And, in terms of construction, it's much easier than in some of these gateway locations. I feel really good about both of them.
Yeah, what are you most excited about when it comes to those brands? What features, what aspects that the customers you think are going to really take to?
Those brands were created to broaden the appeal of Best Western to today's travelers. And if you think about our Best Western brand or Best Western Plus and Best Western Premier, they offer a very, reliable, expected kind of experience. Whereas Vibe and Glow are very different. They are boutique lifestyle brands, and it's all about design. It's all about how you feel when you go to these hotels. So it's just a different kind of experience. And for today's travelers, offering those options, I think is really important. It's just kind of like you wonder, you go to the supermarket, you see all these brands of detergent or consumer packaged goods, and it's because people want choices. So I think the more options you provide people, the more powerful your brand is going to be.
When it comes to Glow and Vibe, are you seeing a lot of development from folks that are already owners and operators of Best Western branded hotels?
There are some of them. Some of the developers are current Best Western members, but a fair number of them are not.
That's
which is
exciting.
Which is exactly what we're aimed to do. It's to broaden the appeal of our brand to these new developers.
Yeah, I always get, I always have mixed feelings about that. When you say, hey, we have X amount % that are developing new hotels, they like what we're doing and we're moving forward. But the other metric really is how many new people are you constantly bringing to the table? How many folks are you bringing into that brand family that then you could grow on it? How do you look at that? Is there a number that you're looking for, percentage breakdown? How does that all work in your mindset?
I really don't have any metrics that we currently follow, and I don't think it's important. I think it's important to, number one, do a good job with our current members. So when they think about building a new hotel, they're coming to us. And it's also important to reach out and gain more developers that we work with. And this is no different than if you're running a hotel. You always want to broaden your customer base. You want to protect what you have, but you also want to grow that base.
Right. Yeah, of course. You. So is it more like an 80-20 rule, or is the fundamentals different?
I don't really follow.
Yeah, I'm just, I don't mean to barrage you with these kind of questions. Just suddenly I got interested in this in this particular topic on how it works. I love to get super wonky with the hotel stuff. So let me tell you, I stayed. I've been trying to stay at more Best Westerns too, because I love the eclectic nature of the brands themselves. And I was in London and with my family, no less. I never get to travel with my family, and I had an opportunity to do so. And we stayed at a Best Western in London, in an area called Swiss Cottage, and it was so much fun because it was old and it was historic. I mean, old in a good way, historic and really oozed classic England and UK. And to me, that is really something I seek out in a hospitality experience.
Well, yeah, that's nice to hear. And actually in Europe, we have a lot of these older historic kinds of hotels with a lot of culture behind it. And some hotels are 300 years old. We have some castles.
I was going to say, castles, yeah.
That are our hotels. So it's really great to hear. They do offer a unique experience.
I think I got to go to one of those castles in Scotland. I'm going to check that out. I promised my wife that the next big trip that we take is going to be like a castle tour.
All right.
we really love those things. So, what are you thinking about when it comes to consumers in the future? How do you figure out how they're changing, and then what types of programs you should focus upon with the variety of brands at Best Western that'll best connect with them to get them to have that emotional traction that you need with customers to keep them coming back again and again?
That's a tough question because Best Western has such broad appeal.
Right.
We have our core customers who are boomers and who have been on many road trips with us and stayed with us for many, many years. And what they look for is somewhat different than the new generation of travelers vis-a-vis the millennials. And I think in many ways, millennials are a very disruptive force in many ways, not just based on what they shop, how they shop, and what they use, for example, Uber or Lyft or where they stay, like Airbnb and different kinds of hotels like hostels. So you got to try to find every way to be relevant to your customer base. And I see because of this generational shift, we have boomers who are evolving their expectations too. It's no secret that the hotels have to put in more electrical outlets to accommodate all the devices people bring to the guest rooms. We have to look at how people want to be empowered in using their phone, whether it's to check in or check out, or eventually to use those phones as room keys. And we have to look at how we provide services in the future. And for example, at Best Western, we've been testing messaging platforms, texting through text, like a text bot. But we are evolving that also to looking at possibly using the Amazon Dot. Imagine asking Alexa to give you a wake-up call, or to ask about the hours of breakfast, or to request more towels. It's far more convenient to have that voice command than even texting.
Yeah,
so I've got to look for that.
Totally. I've been thinking about this particular issue a lot. And one of my biggest concerns in hospitality, and folks, I talk about this all the time here on the No Vacancy podcast, is the danger of too much technology interfering with human interaction. But when we're talking about something like the Amazon Dot, I feel that that's the right application of technology, because if I call down to the front desk and say, hey, what time is breakfast until? That's not a meaningful connection that I'm having with one of the staffers. And I used to be suspicious of Echo and Amazon Dot and all of these services that are coming around until someone gave me one for a Christmas gift, right? and now all of a sudden it's just like, Echo, set timer for 4 minutes, which is how long it takes for my French press coffee to go. And I am now addicted to it and getting used to it in my home, and I'm really coming around to the idea that in a hotel room it's going to be a really interesting idea if applied in exactly the way that you're saying.
No, I'm totally with you. I think you got to respect that different people want different types of interaction. Some want less, some want more. So you've got to empower them to do what they wish.
Yeah, and the most challenging part is sometimes I want less and sometimes I want more, and it leaves folks on the hotel side really having to figure out what mood I'm in that particular day.
Well, Glenn, you've always been difficult to figure out.
Well, I appreciate you finishing that sentence. Mostly people end with the word difficult. So, thank you for that. So, how do you judge whether or not technology is something that you actually want to put in? I know with the Dot, you were testing it in one of the board of directors of Best Western Hotel, who, when I last spoke to him in the fall, was finding great success with it.
Yeah, he loves it, and his guests love it, and that satisfaction is reflected in the guest satisfaction surveys. And, first of all, the texting platform, we've tested it in about 500 hotels now, and the improvement has been just amazing. It's been about an 8-point lift, which is absolutely amazing.
Wow, 8-point lift. That's a significant lift there.
Yeah.
That's wow. I mean, I would never have thought that you could get that much of a lift out of it. That's really transforming the whole notion of the way people stay within a hotel and giving you the confidence in order to bring it across the entire company.
No kidding, yeah.
But I guess that that's going to be more of an optional thing if put into the hotels?
Right now it's still optional. We're still testing it.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. What about else? What else do you think is going to be coming down the pike next?
We are working on a new brand, and it's going to be a very unusual brand, and it's a conversion brand, but it's going to have a very wide appeal. I think people are looking for experience, and so this brand is going to provide that. But people also want to leverage the powerful revenue engines that an established brand like Best Western has to offer. And then on top of it, when you think about an unusual brand, you got to think about creating that buzz all the time. So this brand is going to have a very comprehensive social media and marketing and public relations plan associated with it, both at the hotel level and the brand level. Those three components, the design of the hotel, the ability to be integrated with our powerful reservation engine, and then the constant buzz that we'll create with our marketing plan. Those three things, I think, would make this brand extremely successful.
I like the idea of a conversion brand, and I say that because in order to get to scale, I think it'll be a lot easier for the development team to start closing those deals and make those transitions real quickly. I can't wait to hear more about this particular brand, but of course we're not going to get any details here today. I got to tell you, listeners, I did bribe David. I pulled out a big George Washington from my pocket, and somehow he rejected that big $1 bill. I guess I'm going to have to do a little bit better next time there, David.
Yes, you do, but good things are worth waiting for.
Yeah. When do you think we'll be able to hear more about it? I'm going to guess NYU Hospitality Investment Conference time, beginning of June?
We hope very shortly.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we're going to have to go on to a different topic then. How are you feeling about the overall future of what's going on with the state of hospitality?
I think it's great. I think the fundamentals are really wonderful. I've been in the industry for a very long time, and seldom do you see an extended period of time when you have such great fundamentals working in your favor.
What do you think's different this time?
Well, it's first of all, in terms of this cycle, is this up period that we've been in is much longer than I have ever been able to remember.
Yeah,
it's been a very long stretch.
I don't think anything's ever approached this, and I'm at the point now where I'm starting to ask people, and I'll ask you, do you think the days of the big up and down cycle are over? And if so, or if not, why?
I think because the lending institutions have been very cautious about new projects. This time, I think we are protected on the downside because the supply hasn't been outrageous.
Right.
It's been very moderate. In some cities, you have that supply problem.
Yeah, we're looking at you, New York. And I would say Nashville, but no matter how many hotels open there, they seem to be able to absorb them unbelievable. So I think that's a great point that you're making there, that there's been moderate kind of growth because of banks. And in the days after the Great Recession, we still had all those holdover projects, right? And then it seems like development completely stopped for a number of years.
Correct.
And then it just started to come back much slowly. And demand has been able to outstrip supply for so long. I'm starting to wonder the other half of it, I think, is perhaps a fundamental shift in society in the way that people want to live their lives. They're not buying as many things. They're going out and having experiences, that word that we hear over and over and over again. Do you think that has something to do with it?
I think that's both a plus and a minus.
Mm-hmm.
I think for as long as hotels can offer that unique experience, we are going to be competitive. But of course, Airbnb always touts that the difference with staying with them is they offer you the local experience, the real authentic one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the hotel industry in general needs to be mindful of the competition, and we have to be vigilant.
Yeah, we do, and I've had experiences where I've had no choice but to stay in alternative accommodations, and I found myself enjoying those other accommodations. So it's kind of a scary time, but I think that it's not going to be a long-term issue as each of these jurisdictions kind of figure out what the rules are going to be over time and kind of level that playing field.
Oh, I hope you're right.
Yeah, well, if I'm not right, I'm just going to convince myself I am. Anyway, David, so that way I can sleep well at night. If not, I have to deal with the torture of being me, and that's a very difficult thing to do.
Must be hard.
Well, it is. I'm not an awesome CEO like you are. I gotta sit out here and talk for a living. Oh, it's exhausting. So what are you most excited about in the coming year, in the next 12, 18 months or so? Is it the debut of the new brand? Is it the possibility of technology to enhance your customer offerings? Is it maybe perhaps just that things are going well and you're signing a lot of deals?
Well, at Best Western, we have a singular focus, and that is on our members' success. And that means empowering them to be as effective and competitive in the marketplace as possible, and also driving superior revenue to them. And in both regards, I'm excited about our strategy involved, providing them better support, whether it's in revenue management or training or otherwise superior sales, marketing, distribution strategies that would drive more business to them.
Yeah, and so let me ask you one non-hospitality related question. How do you keep up with understanding what's the best ideas would be in business? Do you read a lot of books? Is there one that you're really fascinated with that you kind of go back to? I want to know how to be a better executive is kind of what I'm asking.
Well, I can tell you, but I have to kill you afterwards.
It might be worth it, David. At least I'll go out knowing the secret to success, even if I don't achieve it.
I think a lot of it is the mindset. And tomorrow at the AHOA General Session, the CEOs have been asked to give a TED Talk of about 5 minutes. And my topic is going to be how to think like a disruptor and how to act like a startup, because that is what it takes to be successful in the future. So
personally then, how do you check yourself to make sure that you're not doing the same old and bringing fresh ideas to the table? And maybe that's an idea that because you're a different generation than some the younger folks out there, that you don't immediately discount because of what your perspective might be.
Well, I ask myself, am I being reactive or am I being proactive? Because thinking like a disruptor is the ultimate of being proactive. You capitalize on the deficiency and efficiency in the system, and you totally rethink what's possible. So just to illustrate, if you are a reactive kind of person, you think about improvements. You're going to think, well, what are 2 improvements I can make? And that may give you a 10% improvement over some time. But if you think like a disruptor, you're going to ask a different question, and that question is going to be, what are 2 things others can do to me that would make me irrelevant? And with that kind of thinking, you are able to have some breakthrough strategies. But being able to think like that is not enough. You look at Amazon, they think like that all the time, and that's why they're constantly disrupting different industries. But they have another part that's going for them. That make them such a great disruptor. The other part to that is they're always thinking like they are a startup. You listen to Jeff Bezos, and you read his annual stockholder letter. Every year for 20-some years, he said, it's always day one at Amazon. It's always day one. It's always the start of a startup, the first day of a startup. So if you give yourself that kind of attitude, the enthusiasm, the excitement, the can-do attitude, you stop at nothing, let's go for broke, you are going to be very successful. You think like a disruptor, you act like a startup.
Yeah, I think we're in an era of you've got to be bold with risk-taking, or else you're just going to be deemed irrelevant by a changing world around you.
Correct, because there would be people that would disrupt you.
Right. So that's the word of the day is disruption. Don't be disrupted. Be the disruptor, even if you are part of the the established order. Is I think the words I'm looking for. Before we wrap up, anything else that you feel that you need to share here with us?
Well, thank you, Glenn. It's always a pleasure to meet up with you.
It's always a pleasure to meet up with you, and I want to thank all of you guys for listening, especially Mr. David Kong for being here today and sitting with me on the No Vacancy podcast. And I will be back next week. That is on unless I decide to go back to Mongolia and stay at the Best Western Premier. Thanks for watching.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.